So today I would love to speak to you about mentoring and really the power of mentoring and what that has, how mentoring has really made a difference in my life. And I hope there are a few things that you can also take from this session. It's only 20 minutes, so it's not very long. So if you have any questions, do also feel free to connect with me afterwards. So I'm a woman and I'm successful. It's not something that you hear very often, not from a woman. And I'm not successful because of the house I have or the amount of money I have in my bank account or the size of my box bike. I live in Amsterdam, so we have box bikes here, but it's comparable to a big car, for instance, in any other country. But I'm really successful because of the type of people that I have met along my way. And to me, success is achieving what I value. So I value growth, recognition, freedom, and meaningful work. So over the years, my core values have not changed. In actual fact, quite the opposite. They've really helped me stay focused on what it is that I wanted from my life and from my career. And if I'm in a crossroads, then staying true to my values has really helped me focus and help me make decisions as well. So I grew up in South Africa. My dad was a banker, forex trader, and later also finance director. So super, super serious man. My mum, she was a stay-at-home mom. I called her a domestic engineer, but she was also an artist and a creative. So as you can see, I grew up with no real female business role models around me. And
I'm not sure I understand.
You cannot be where you cannot see. So I spent a lot of Saturday mornings with my dad at the office. This is a nice indication of what the office would have looked like back in the late 80s, I guess. This is a typical dealing room, big grey office, lots of men in suits doing very, very important things, looking very serious, staring at screens with green digits on. And here was a young girl, always dressed in a dress. My mum loved to dress me up. I wasn't a jeans girl at all, but very brightly colored, sitting around watching all these men going about their serious jobs. And I remember thinking to myself, but where are all these women? Where are the women? Why are there no women here on a Saturday morning? What's all these men doing? And but of course they were at home looking after their kids. So my dad wanted me to be a doctor or dentist or something medical. Most of my family are in the medical profession, so he knew I had the smarts for it. But and it was super, super clear that he did not want me to work in business because there was no space for women in business, as you can see. But being a curious learner, I was always still looking for growth, recognition, freedom, and meaningful work. So I wasn't going to settle for that as a concept. And I wanted to do something different, but I also knew I wanted to work in business. So we're going to talk about mentoring a little bit today, but following the rule of how to deliver an awesome presentation, and no presentation is perfect without some powerful stats. I'm sharing a couple of numbers with you today. I love the Harvard Business Review. It's a great source of research and learning. And there's some pretty awesome articles on mentoring, for instance, within the Harvard Business Review. So the first one is 80%. So 80% of learning takes place between mentors and mentees. So that's a really, really big number right there. And then 75% of private sector executives describe mentoring as critical to their own career development. That's 75%. That is, again, a really, really large number. Then the final one, 71% of Fortune 500 companies offer some sort of mentoring program. So if these numbers don't convince you that mentoring is important, then nothing else will, unless you experience it for yourself. So there are often some really big questions that people overlook when they think about mentoring. And that is, what type of mentor should I be looking for? Now, today I'm going to tell you about two key mentors that played a really big part in my career. But before that, I also want to just talk to you a little bit about the difference between mentoring and coaching, because that's often confused. A lot of people mention mentoring and coaching kind of in the same sentence. But there are some really key differences which I like to point out. And I also want to tell you just a little bit about the three types of mentors that you would potentially come across. So when you think about coaching, so coaching is when you really need clarification on your path or direction. So you're not really sure in terms of where you need to go, what you want to do, your direction, your goals, etc., etc. You would really partner with a coach. So this is a very structured decision. They help you they ask you right kind of clarifying questions. They help you find your own answers. They help you gain clarity on a specific direction or specific problem or something. And they will really work out with you what it will take to get to reach your particular goals. So together you will brainstorm a very tactical action plan around goals that you want to achieve, and also who else you need to involve along the way. So like I said, they follow a pretty structured approach. And the other really great, interesting thing about joining with a coach is that they will not really share anything personal. So they won't share personal stories, personal experiences, and their learnings and kind of the mistakes that they've made. Whereas mentoring, on the other side, you'd partner with a mentor if on a very particular piece, on a very specific skill set. So if you know that you want to develop a very particular skill set, or you want to reach a very particular, set of skills, then you would partner with a mentor. So this is much more of a kind of a trusted, a respected relationship in terms of that both parties, the mentor and the mentee, are in a learning situation. So very often the mentor also takes something from the mentee in that mentoring relationship. And a great thing about a mentor-mentee relationship is that there's a lot of knowledge share, there's a lot of experience share, skill share, like mistakes made, for instance, or lessons learned, etc. So you can see the learning the difference between the two is quite clear, even just on that aspect. So it's really important for a company when they build a mentoring program to really think about the specific skill sets that a mentor would want to learn, so they can pair them with the right mentor. There's also sponsoring and teaching, but that's another topic, and it's quite big, so we don't have enough time for that. But if you want to learn more about how those four then come together, do let me know. So the type of mentors, mentors, they're when you Google type of mentors, there's a ton of stuff that come up, and there's loads of varieties of mentors that you can come across. But there are actually just three clear types of mentors. There's the peer mentor, the career mentor, and the life mentor. There's a ton of information on these, so if you want to learn more, do let me know. But just some high-level bits here. For the peer mentor, for instance, this is a really nice one and sometimes overlooked when in an organization. This is where you would pair someone with more of a buddy. So this is where the act of mentoring is more around the act of learning. So you would be partnered with somebody who could really help you with those very early days of starting a new job or learning something in a kind of like a bit basic level, a new level. Then there's the classic and the classic or the career mentor. So this is the one that you typically think of when you think about mentoring. And this is there's loads of different varieties of career mentors that you would come across. They would be more of kind of like a trusted advisor or someone who would really help you think about things in the long run and help you with career choices, potentially also with navigating some company politics, anything like that. some really, and they might also point out some really valuable opportunities on the horizon, for instance, so something that you might not have considered or thought about. And they would also help you think about your space in the, so for instance, if it's within an organization, kind of your career path or your place within the organization. Then the last one is my favorite, and that's the life mentor, or more of an aspirational mentor. So this is a really interesting one. This person, and you might only ever need one or two of these in your life. So this is someone whose core values really align with yours, and someone who you would, if you think about your career, your community, and your relationships, and your personal goals and values, and you put these three kind of circles together, someone who kind of sits in the middle of those three very powerful communities and who really brings that together for you. Sometimes it might not even be someone that you have met personally. So for me, for instance, a really great life mentor is someone like Oprah Winfrey, or for instance, Richard Branson. These are people that I really, there's some core bits of their skill set or their values that really align with mine. So yeah, so that's a really interesting one to explore. So those are the three kind of key mentors that I wanted to mention. So I said that I'd love to give you a couple of examples of mentors that have played a role in my life. The first one is my fluffy version of one of the three categories I've mentioned earlier, and that's a dementor. In actual fact, this is an interesting one. And I'm going to take you back to the late 90s when I was still living in South Africa. I was studying and doing lots and lots of different part-time jobs. And one of the jobs I had was a few days a week. I was working in the HR department in the bank that my dad was the finance director. And I was reporting to the head of HR, awful woman, really, really awful. She was mean, she was pretty angry, and she was a really great example of a businesswoman that I did not want to be, the type of businesswoman I did not want to be. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, if HR people and businesswomen are like that, I do not want to have anything to do with that at all. However, she was also really good at playing politics, great with the senior staff, and really kind of knew how to pull strings to get what she wanted. And it was just something that I just could not align with. So I really very clearly remember, thinking that was just not the kind of woman I wanted to be in business. I grew up with the idea of it being a man's world. Yes, I was really frustrated with this concept of us living in a man's world, but half of it are women. No, and this was a really great example for me of why that concept is just completely just wrong. Now, she used to call me Mr. Roux's daughter, as if I did not have my own name or my own identity. It's terrible. So I had this idea of something that I just absolutely did not want to do in a career I just don't want to be in. So then I'm going to take you to the next type of mentor, which is, or the next woman who made a real impact in my life. And now I've left South Africa, I've moved to the UK, and I'm working in a big corporate company. And after a few years, the company had closed down, and we all lost our jobs. And I was in this real weird space where I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do with my career. I was now in business and I was working, and I was enjoying kind of what I'm doing, but I needed to take the next step in what I wanted to do. So then along the way, I met this woman. We worked for the same organization, and she really took me under her wing, and she really got to know my strengths and my weaknesses, my skill set, and also my potential. So she knew she knew me pretty well. So she could then help me rethink and reposition the concept and the term of HR, which in actual fact is something that I feel truly passionate about. If you think about my values around growth, recognition, and meaningful work, these are things that I would love to be able to give to somebody else. So she really helped me kind of rework that concept in my mind to then move back into the world of HR, which is then where I was able to really build a very interesting and very successful career. So I know I'm probably running out of time, but I want to leave you with a quote from Steven Spielberg on mentoring. So it's a delicate balance of mentoring. Someone is not creating them in your own image, but giving them the opportunity to create themselves. So if you want to be a mentor, or you're looking for a mentor, do contact me via LinkedIn or Eva Connections, which is my email at estelle@evaconnections.com. I'm going to try and get back the screen and see if I can get some questions in the small amount of time that I've got left. Any questions from anybody? If you want to connect, I'd love to hear from you. I see there's quite a few people on this session, which is great. Thank you so much. And yes, reverse mentoring. Reverse mentoring is fantastic. It's quite a new concept in organizations, and they're really using reverse mentoring now, especially with millennials coming into the organization and all the other wonderful gens coming into work, and with technology moving at the speed it does. Bringing in reverse mentoring into an organization and into a mentoring program is fantastic. There's also maternity mentoring, which is a great one for organizations to really use and think about, women going on maternity leave and how they reintegrate back into the working world once they've had their baby. Diverse mentoring is another great one for organizations to think about. So there's tons of different programs that you could join as a woman, or that you can think about as an organization. And I think I'm going to be kicked out of this room any second now. But lovely to see you all, and hope to connect with as many of you as possible.